And good morning. Welcome to Up North News Radio for this Wednesday morning, January 22nd, 2025. I'm Pat Kreitlow here on Lake Wissota in Chippewa Falls. Nice to have you along. Coming up on the program today, Melissa Baldoff has our weekly climate check. We will talk about the new administration taking the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accords again, but maybe something's different this time now that we've kind of been to this movie before and can kind of figure out new ways to do things. We'll talk about just the entire sense of, not having the pity party anymore now that there's been a change in presidents, and instead, taking that pride you have in your community, whatever community that may be, and just continuing to do the work to better your own corner of the world. In the second hour, we'll talk to State Representative Francesca Hong, who is leading the way on the Healthy School Meals for All bill, which I will say again, should not be a thing. Kids should be able to have school lunches and not worry about money. Another one that doesn't make sense is that Wisconsin's one of only 2 states left in the nation that does not provide expanded, affordable, stable health care access through Medicaid to new moms for the first year of their being postpartum. And it's all because of one guy. One guy. There's almost every Republican in the legislature wants this done, except Speaker Robin Vos. He said so again recently. So we will talk about that. We will have Todd Alba. We will have Melissa Kay from WFHR. We will have Brittany Merlot's forecast, Greg Bach, and more coming up starting at 6:06 all across the Civic Media Radio Network and right here. We'll see you soon.
Wisconsin from Civic Media. This is Up North News Radio. Now, live from our Lake Minnesota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
Well, hey there, Wisconsin. Good morning. It's 6:06 on this Wednesday morning, January 22nd, 2025, and it's another beautiful day to have you here up north, live from Lake Minnesota, from wherever you're listening across the Civic Media Radio Network, or on the app, or by podcast, or watching us on Facebook or YouTube. We appreciate you starting your Wednesday morning right here. I got a question for you. Can you feel the difference? Well, maybe not most of you because you haven't been outside yet, but the few of you that have, can you feel it? It is 20 to 25 to 30 degrees warmer than it was at this time yesterday. Now, these are still cold temperatures, a lot of single digits out there still, but when you were 20 below with a wind chill of 30 below or 40 below, or like in Duluth, 50 below, this feels like a heat wave. It's 10 above right now in Chippewa Falls, 8 degrees in Hayward. Amory's at 14. Wausau's at 4 right now. La Crosse, 10 above. It's 5 in Rapids and in Green Bay. Madison's at 7 degrees. Waukesha's at 3. And Radio Park in Racine has a balmy 8 degrees right now. What a difference 24 hours makes. Coming up on the program today, we will have, it's Wednesday, so we'll have our climate check. We're actually going to have a little fun at the beginning of it because we always introduce it with a Marcia Griffith song, and that's actually part of today's history lesson. So we'll talk to Melissa a bit about that. But then in talking about the climate, we'll note that the new president, see, I've got my swear jar here. So, the new president has pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accords again, but maybe things are a little different this time, just in how we deal with that and how we essentially have a national workaround, shall we say. So we'll talk to Melissa a bit about that. We'll talk about how folks who are likely to be marginalized, denigrated, targeted under the new regime are saying, we're not going to sit here and have a pity party the whole time. There's work to be done. So we'll talk a bit about that. In our second hour, we'll visit with State Assembly Rep Francesca Hong about, she's going to talk about one program. We're actually going to talk about two things in our second hour. There's a saying, this shouldn't be a thing. It's something that should maybe be on a radio show. Greg, are you familiar with the line, this shouldn't be a thing?
Oh, I have. It's one of the most genius lines ever uttered on radio, right up there with that's the rest of the story, and
that's the way
by
it
Howard
is.
Stern.
Well, there's these this shouldn't be a thing that kids go hungry because their parents are poor or they fall behind in their school lunch bill. You should be able to get a healthy meal at school. And State Representative Francesca Hong is sponsoring that Healthy School Meals for All bill. So we'll talk to her about that and other things that will be handled by the Assembly Education Committee, of which she is a member. And the other, this shouldn't be a thing, goes like this. There are now only 2 states left in the country that do not accept federal funds that will allow new moms to have stable, affordable health care access through Medicaid for 12 months postpartum. There are only 2 states that restrict that to 2 months postpartum and then cut you off, even though new moms have health issues all throughout, the first year after labor and delivery. And Wisconsin's one of those 2. The other is Arkansas. And the thing is, it's a very bipartisan bill. It passed the state Senate last year with only 1 no vote from a guy who's no longer there. But despite having so many sponsors in the Assembly that it could pass on a majority vote just with the sponsors alone, one guy won't let it come up for a vote. You guessed it, it's Assembly Speaker Robin Vos. And he, again, this week has reiterated he's not letting that bill go through. What is it that Robin Vos, wants to say to sick new moms? I get tough luck, I guess, is the radio-friendly way that we can put it. Why does Robin Vos hate new moms? I don't know. We'll ask that question in our second hour. And along the way, of course, you can join us by telephone or by fax at 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. You can also text us through the Civic Media app. You can call us through the Civic Media app as well. And, of course, if you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook, put a little something in the comments section. We'd love to have you along. Temperature-wise, looking at my notes here, so we did break our streak below zero. Here in the Chippewa Valley, it was 66 hours that we spent below zero. We are still, however, we're now in our 107th hour below freezing since sometime late Friday afternoon. So we'll eventually get back above the freezing mark here, but we're slowly working our way back. From the standpoint of civic media coverage, you get a double dose of me today. I will be back later this evening for Governor Evers delivering his State of the State address. That'll start at 7 tonight. Coverage begins here on Civic Media at 6:50. Join me and Todd Alba and political editor Dan Schaefer of the recombobulation area as we look ahead to what we're expecting the governor to say, and then talk afterwards about what was in the speech, what get passed, what is likely to get stymied by the legislature, but all in an effort by the governor to, reflect the will of the people in what things should be getting done in the state capitol. Whether they are or not is something you probably have to take up with Robin Voss. But we'll talk more about that as the day goes along as well. You can also sign up for our daily newsletter. Head over to UpNorthNewsWI.com and hit subscribe up in the top banner, and you can be a part of that. And I'm just calling up Christina's newsletter from this morning. There's a little story here about Lambeau Field and how it compares to the rest of the NFL in ways that are tangible, but also intangible. There's a shortage of referees out there because parents are being jerks. So it's a call for more people to be refs for youth sports and for parents to settle down out there. And there's a link as well to the article that I wrote a couple of weeks back after the passing of two former Wisconsin state senators who reminded us of a time when politics wasn't as partisan and polarizing as it is now. So again, that's part of our unabashedly Wisconsin news. Sign up for it over at UpNorthNewsWI.com. Just click subscribe in the top banner. A couple of quick sports notes for you as well. Let's see. The Bucks play tonight at New Orleans. The Badger men's basketball team lost last night to UCLA, 85-83. That snaps a 7-game win streak for the Badgers. A 5-minute scoring drought early in the second half didn't help matters. The Badger men will host Nebraska on Sunday, and you'll be able to hear that game across several civic media stations. The 10th-ranked Marquette men's basketball team forced Seton Hall into making 24 turnovers en route to a 76-59 victory last night. Marquette is in a tie for first place in the Big East Conference, and they will next host Villanova on Friday in Milwaukee. And finally, the Baseball Hall of Fame has announced its class for 2025. Ichiro Suzuki becomes the first Japanese player chosen for the Hall. He fell just one vote short of unanimous. He was elected along with relief pitcher Billy Wagner and former Brewer pitcher CC Sabathia. Sabathia gave Brewer fans a summer to remember in 2008. Cleveland could no longer afford him after 8 seasons, and the Brewers snapped him up. He was only on the team for 3 months, just long enough for him to put the entire team on his back and carry Milwaukee to its first playoff appearance in 26 years. According to Kurt Hogg at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, Sabathia made 17 starts, pitched 7 complete games. On those 17 starts, 3 shutouts. His earned run average, while with the Brewers, was 1.65. He even hit a home run in his second game with the Brewers, and he threw what everyone considered to be a no-hitter, except the official scorer who botched a call on a missed ground ball. Sabathia then went in the offseason to the Yankees, where he stayed for 11 more seasons and solidified his home run career. He's got a Cy Young Award. He's got a World Series ring. But Greg, I do recall well, there was just something about when, first off, it was like, did we get this guy? I can't believe we got this guy. Cleveland had to make a trade. I think we were all like, did we just get CC and Sabathia? Really? Wow.
Did we get the other CC Sabathia?
Yeah.
Like with the little 2 next to it? Like, is that because we're the Brewers and we don't get.
But we did. Tony's on YouTube going, "You're welcome" from Cleveland. So, but
okay.
Yeah. Well, look, Tony says on YouTube, CC was an absolute beast, and he was. And you thought, well, okay, I don't know how we got him, but he's just going to be kind of dogging it, right? Till he can get, a decent contract with some bigger team. No. He poured it on. It was amazing.
And he spoke fondly of his time here too. Like he really he was he came and left before I really got into baseball, but many friends who were freaking out when he joined the team, and they loved watching him, and he really enjoyed being here for the short time.
It was the prototypical way that you wish every situation would work, where, the small market team can't afford somebody anymore. Another small market team picks him up for a short time. He's moving on. But again, the fact that there's no bad blood anywhere in there compared to who's the loser we were making fun of last year because he was trashing his time with the Brewers for no particular reason whatsoever. How do you like that? We've already forgotten him. Good. I'm glad. I'm actually
he plays for the Mets now, doesn't he?
Yeah, I'm glad I can't remember his name. But I mean,
I'm not gonna look it up. And people on the live stream, don't tell us.
Yeah, just
let him be nothing to us.
Yeah, because there was no reason. Remember, it caught us all kind of off guard. Like, what are you talking about? I thought we were cool, man.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, what did we do?
And he was just like, "Oh, I hate Milwaukee. Okay,
I never want to go back there again."
Yeah, well, okay, don't let the door hit you. So anyway, I would much rather remember CC Sabathia's time here, because
Indeed.
that was great.
Yes.
Again, the salary structure is such that it's not quite fair with the larger teams, but if this is the system we've got, we definitely showed how you can make the best of it. And so did CC Sabathia, a first ballot Hall of Famer, if ever there was one to be deserved. When we come back, we'll talk about the state attorney general joining a lawsuit to help overcome Donald Trump's assault on the Constitution. Now I got to feed the swear jar. Wherever you're listening across Wisconsin on this Wednesday morning, when you're here, you're up north. I'm Pat Kreitlow. Be right back. There's no mistaking the voice of somebody whose birthday is today. That, of course, would be Steve Perry, formerly of Journey. We'll have details in today's history lesson coming up in a half hour here on Up North News Radio. Greg, under the category of coffee mugs, and by the way, what do you have for a coffee mug today? Anything?
I don't have one right now.
Oh, no.
I didn't get a chance to make myself some coffee, so I'll have some in a little bit. But
okay. There was one that's a favorite of mine, but the way that this is set up, if I'm going to highlight the coffee mug, I can only put it in my right hand, and that's where my little hot plate is for the coffee mug. Yes. But some coffee mugs have things on two sides. This one, as you can tell, has nothing on this side. If I could hold it with my left hand, you'd see my proud little UW Eau Claire alumni logo on there.
Yeah.
But because they only put it on the one side, and I would otherwise bump into the microphone with it, I can't do that. So for folks looking, going, hey, that's not his usual coffee mug with the grandkids. No, today's the alumni mug. But you got to put stuff on both sides. I'm just keep that in mind when we finally put that order in for Up North News coffee mugs. You got to put stuff on both sides.
Folks, I want to let you know that this conversation would have happened whether it was on or off the radio, and
Absolutely.
me being here or not doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's just the way, like, I can't with the coffee mug, or I'm going to hit the microphone, and
Exactly.
I can't.
In case anybody's wondering, going, is he really a 60-year-old man now? I believe I've put that question to bed. Right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm perfectly happy with that.
Tune in the second hour. Pat comes back with his hard opinions.
All right. Grandpa continues with the headlines now. Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul, Governor Evers, and Democrats in many other states across the country filed a lawsuit against President Donald Trump on Tuesday to block his executive order that is intended to end birthright citizenship, even though, there's this thing called the Constitution that might be standing in the way. The lawsuit says that Trump acted without legal authority in signing the order, and in the lawsuit it says that this is purely a policy tactic to purportedly deter immigration into the United States. Kaul put out a statement that called this a blatant violation of the Constitution. He said the Constitution, federal law, and the Supreme Court precedent all make clear that the children who would be impacted by this executive order are indeed United States citizens. Trump's order says, that children born to undocumented immigrants inside the U.S. will not be considered U.S. citizens. It extends to children born to mothers who were lawfully in the U.S. but only temporarily, like on student or work or tourist visas. Look, you can have any opinion you want about immigration. You can have any opinion you want on anchor babies or chain migration. You can set up whatever policy you want for immigration reform and border security. You don't get to rewrite the Constitution or ignore the parts that you don't like. I mean, would that it were so, what we could do with the Second Amendment after the way that the meaning of that has been perverted over the years. But we have what we have. You have to change it by constitutional amendment one way or another, and an executive order just ain't going to cut it. The inaugural festivities that took place in Washington, D.C. were attended by many Republicans, a few Democrats in Congress, but definitely not Congressman Mark Bocan. We talked to him, we heard from him yesterday about how he spent Monday not in Washington, D.C., but actually following through on the Martin Luther King Day holiday theme of service. And he held a news conference with several groups of people that, he said could be marginalized by the incoming administration. And so while we heard from the congressman, I thought maybe we would hear from some of the folks who took part in that event as well. For example, there's Centro Hispano Executive Director Karen Menendez-Collar, who talked about really this is a time for pride, not pity. A lot of folks are upset about Donald Trump being elected and where we go from here. But as Collar makes clear, there is work that goes on for her community who's ever in the White House.
I think I've gone through a lot of feelings since the election. Grief, sadness. I'm at a point where I want to celebrate our joy and I want to celebrate our humanity. And I hope the message about our community really centers on that moving forward so that we can bridge those divides that say that we're different. We're not another community. We're the fabric of Wisconsin. We're the fastest growing community when it comes to the city, the county, and the state. We're here to stay, and we're really we're really intentional on making sure that we thrive.
There was also Tyrone Creech from GSafe. That is a nonprofit advocacy group for the LGBTQ community. And his words were a little bit more direct about what the incoming administration, the real danger that it poses to young people who are still dealing with questions of sexual identity. They're dealing with bullying and mental health issues. And we need to be aware of that because things are going to get a little bit worse for them in this new administration.
Essentially, education is supposed to be free, and we're not allowing that for our students. Right? We're talking about bans on also curriculum. We're talking about our trans community that should be at the forefront of our movements and that are being tucked away, that we're not acknowledging. We're talking about the healthcare that trans kids need, non-binary kids need to survive. We're essentially talking about the survival of kids. We're also talking about in school administration, school boards that are against trans kids and non-binary. The fact is that you are okay with kids killing themselves. You're okay with teen suicide because exactly what's going to happen. It's already been happening. It's going to get worse. We must protect our students. That is the future of our communities. That's the future of our world.
And I want to hear from one more. We're going to skip down, Greg, to talking about the Postal Service because that, too, is a group maybe you've forgotten by now, but all throughout the Trump administration the first time around was talk of privatizing the Postal Service. And Don Ahnen, the state president of the National Association of Letter Carriers, says they're aware of how important mail service is and it needs to be protected.
We talked about how important it is to make sure the essential mail stays exactly the way it is. We deliver to every single house in our communities, the rural communities that other delivery organizations don't do. We're the eyes and the ears of the community. We deliver medicine for the elderly, and we go places that other people don't go. We don't charge these fines. We don't charge these fees. It's free. As long as you put a mailbox at your house, we will come every single day. And it is so essential. The American people depend on us, and it's very essential that we make sure that our plight for the country is still good.
So again, the theme here, pride, not pity. The work goes on, whatever it is, whether it's delivering the mail, taking care of, kids in crisis. There's just a lot of watching out for each other that we're going to have to do a little bit more of now. Our climate check is next. You're up north. Oh, you're going to like how we start things off with this week's climate check, and we're starting right there with that song you hear every Wednesday morning at this time. Marcia Griffith doing the Electric Boogie, otherwise known as the Electric Slide, and Melissa Baldoff always dances her way in here every Wednesday. Melissa, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Now, all the time you hear me say at the end of this segment that today's history lesson is coming up next. We're going to tease a little bit of today's history lesson because it involves that very song. It's a song that was released back in 1982, essentially, as a response to Eddie Grant's song, Electric Avenue. So this dance song written by Bunny Wailer dates back to the early 80s, but it was on this day in 1990 that a disc jockey in Washington revived it, and the Jamaican singer showed up back on the Hot 100 as the new electric slide line dance craze swept the nation, which I'm sure you've done at one or two wedding receptions, Melissa.
I certainly have. I'm a big fan of the electric slide, of any kind of group dance, quite frankly. So
Sure.
yeah, I'm all in.
All right. So yeah, peaked at came back on the chart, peaked at number 51 on this day in 1990, and has frankly lived on forever as a result, and also reminds us every week that we're talking about the climate and ways that we get our electricity and maybe get them from cleaner, greener sources. Well, at least we were. And well, then came the Trump administration. Again, I want to remind you all this is not a recording from 2017. When I say that Donald Trump just pulled us out of the Paris Climate Accords, first off, we weren't on the air in 2017. But here we are again. Deja vu, Melissa. As
all
Trump
over
had
again.
promised. Yep. As Trump has promised. I mean, he did it. He's going to do so much more. How do you describe what we're doing, what this country is doing now, starting this week?
It's so hard to describe it because everything just feels so. Everything you could say feels so cliched, and it feels so, um, you know, underwhelming. That's not even the right word. It just doesn't even feel big enough to meet how serious this is. It's just, you just think, how could we get here again? How could we be in this moment? And how could we get here again? How could we allow this to happen again? And it's really hard to not feel despair, and to be focused on the work that has to be done to hold him accountable, hold this administration accountable, and to stay focused on the progress that can still be made. So it's hard to not feel really sad and angry about this and how we got to this place again.
And yet there's something that feels a little bit different, and we covered this at once during the campaign here. And there's actually a headline on an article from America is All In, which says America is all in and doubles down on the commitment to the Paris Agreement despite Trump's withdrawal. And specifically for folks that didn't hear our segment, it may be that Trump is taking the federal government out of the business of trying to reduce carbon emissions, but cities are still involved. States like Wisconsin are still involved. Local institutions are still involved. And even a good number of businesses remain committed to the ideal of reducing their carbon footprint, because it seems like a whole lot of people, Melissa, don't see this as a political issue. They see this as a planet issue, as a quality of the air we breathe issue. So I agree with you. It's not happy news, but it feels like Trump doing these things actually builds awareness of the good stuff behind it.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right. It does build awareness. But I think that the challenge is, just having those good things break through because, there's just the onslaught of insanity with him and the constant distractions with other things. I thought there was just a really funny and clever, but so just like, ugh, gosh, sketch on Saturday Night Live over the weekend.
Hmm.
And it was just like, you know, supposed to be MSNBC, and they just kept cutting in with like breaking news of all these like ridiculous things that Donald Trump was saying. And that's just kind of how they could never actually cover any news that was happening because they just kept cutting in with like breaking news of like ridiculous things he was saying. And that
Hmm.
just feels like what we've already lived and what we are perhaps doomed to live again here, which is just makes it all the more important that we have these conversations like we get to have every week here on Climate Check, and that people continue to have conversations in their communities and continue to talk about those successes, um, you know, with their friends and neighbors on social media, writing letters to the editor, just getting the news out about the good things that are happening and talk about it and try to help those things break through as much as possible about those successes because it is difficult to break through the noise when you've got you know just this clown out there saying anything and everything all the time to distract from some of the bad stuff that he's doing.
Yeah. Look, according to an Associated Press story about this, in terms of what exactly are we talking about here for the Paris Climate Accord? Again, it's a system by which every 5 years, countries that belong to it are required to submit a goal or a plan for what they're going to do about carbon dioxide and methane and other gases. And President Biden actually did submit a plan for the United States last month to reduce emissions by as much as 2/3 by 2035 compared to the levels in 2005. And countries can make their emissions targets more or less ambitious. Trump, rather than making the goal less ambitious, decided just to pull the U.S. out, which I think puts us in here's the list. Here's who's not in the Paris Agreement: Iran, Libya, Yemen, and the Trump administration. Just a real hall of fame for the climate there, isn't it?
Yeah, we're going to be really shooting ourselves in the foot here. This is opting ourselves out of the opportunity to be a part of the solution. We're going to be leaving, other leaders, other nations um, you know, to fill that void and to make the decisions. And we're just kind of going to take a step back and say, hey, we're not going to be a part of the solution. And it's really disappointing to see that we're clearly not going to do our own part to limit our own contribution to global warming, and don't want to have any role in leadership globally.
Right. And, as one of the world's largest polluters, which we are by virtue of our size and the scope of our industry and everything, part of the agreement is that, developed nations like the United States would help pay for some smaller, poorer countries that have to deal with the effects of a changing climate. And last year, President Biden announced that U.S. climate aid to poor nations was around $11 billion in the past year, which is far short of what these countries say they need. But again, it was something compared to Donald Trump, who's just pulling the whole thing back. But let's switch over to another thing that Donald Trump did, again, just as a sop to industry, to the big industries that pollute, gas and oil companies and things like that. And that was getting rid of the so-called EV mandate. And again, last year, Melissa, we went over this. It's not an EV mandate in the way that Trump frames it. It's not reducing anybody's choice of vehicles. It is saying that vehicle manufacturers overall have to have their total tailpipe emissions, come down to a certain level. Some companies are going to do that through EVs. Some are going to do it through cleaner burning gas engines. But, the whole thing is it was kind of surprising to me, Melissa, to hear Trump continue to talk about it this way, even though he's been fact checked 8 ways to Sunday on this. But I guess, if he just repeats the same thing often enough, enough Americans will believe it to vote for him.
Yeah, that seems to be a strategy that has worked well for Donald Trump, unfortunately. And we know, like you said, that this is not something that is, forcing anyone to do anything. And in fact, this is something that has the support of the auto industry. They have been very much in support of really shifting to production of more EVs because they are seeing that's what the market is supporting. They know that's what customers are interested in. It's unfortunate for businesses that have been relying on the production of these vehicles because they know that customers are interested in purchasing them. It's unfortunate for workers who are relying on these clean energy, clean technology jobs that pay really well to build the charging infrastructure. It's unfortunate for employers who know that their employees want to have access to chargers because they are driving EVs and that's important to them. So by Donald Trump, really trying to make it more difficult for that industry to thrive, he's only hurting, you know, workers and businesses and really stifling the economy. He's not sending the message that he thinks he is. He's really just hurting workers, hurting the economy, and that's all he's doing.
And I think that it's important to end on that note is that, look, a lot of what you heard right now is reaction to Donald Trump's activity to pull out of the Paris Accords and, to denigrate the move toward electric vehicles. But moving forward, when Donald Trump does some of these things, let's keep in mind what the proper frame is. It's when Donald Trump says he's going to, defund the Inflation Reduction Act. He's killing jobs. He's quite literally killing jobs. We've outlined so many ways in Wisconsin that the Inflation Reduction Act is adding jobs. Now, people would get that if, say, he canceled the bipartisan infrastructure law. People would know, okay, well, we're not going to get our roads fixed. We're not going to get those bridges built. And it just needs to be made clear again that anything that Trump does to the Inflation Reduction Act, that is literally killing job growth in Wisconsin and other states. We have a vehicle, no pun intended, to go forward on job growth, and Trump can only make things worse from here.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. The benefit we have seen from the Inflation Reduction Act is only going to increase as more people, as more businesses, as more communities continue to take advantage of the rebates that are available, of the resources under direct pay, under as more projects continue to expand from the investments that are made in communities all across the country. So, if he is going to roll back the progress that we've made, it is only going to hurt our progress and hurt people all around the country.
Yeah. So let's keep an eye on that. That's what we will watch in this new presidency. In the meantime, continue to encourage the steps that are being done at the state and local and private sector levels. Melissa Baldoff, let's electric slide our way out of here. Thank you again for the visit and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks, you too.
All right. The rest of that history lesson is coming up in a bit. You're up north. There was Melissa. There goes Melissa. Oh, Melissa's back
And-
again.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
had to shut
right.
my door. My furnace is running like a, power horse that
furnace?
it is.
Brr, heat.
Yes.
That's my impression of Melissa's furnace.
That was really good.
I'm glad it doesn't actually do that during the morning show. Although it could be funny once.
What's new in Melissa world?
Oh, the ATV UTV resolution did not pass last night. It was
Okay.
tabled until further
Okay.
time
All right.
in Wisconsin Rapids. So that's kind of the big news. I was up, super late.
Ooh,
So
okay.
I'm here though.
Any? Of course you are, and we love you for it. Any radio stuff to plug?
No updates on community stories yet. Except apparently Ashley almost found a really giant sponsor for it.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, well, no, that's not going to happen. Yay. Not enough hours in the day.
Yeah. Not enough sleep on the earth.
Nope.
All right. Well, good talk. All right. So
Sorry. I'm eating bacon sandwich. It's yummy.
Yum.
just
Okay.
bacon, nothing else on it.
Bacon and bread. Dude, I had like 3 minutes to get here.
Okay. All right. All right.
I toasted the bread because it was frozen.
There
Oh,
you go. Bacon toast.
a diplomat.
And it's turkey bacon, just for the record.
Oh, we were doing so well for a moment there.
It's that or coffee. I have to choose, man.
Okay. All right. 15 seconds.
Darling, you send me. I know you send me. Darling, you send me. Honest to do.
Does it get much smoother than Sam Cooke? The late Sam Cooke, born this day in 1931. We'll get another tune or two out of him before the day is over. This is today's history lesson for this January 22nd, 2025. And we are joined by Melissa Kay from WFHR in beautiful Wisconsin Rapids. Melissa, good morning. How are things in Rapids today?
Good morning. We have a light dusting of snow, and it's my birthday week, guys.
Your birthday week?
Oh,
Yeah,
how does
my
22 feel?
Aww.
Like 43, but it's good. It's on Saturday. Just in case
Oh.
you wanted to know.
Are you gonna do anything special?
I'm going to go see my niece's theater competition she's in up in Duluth.
Aw.
What does a theater competition look like? It's like, York, I knew you well. Good job. All
It's
right.
a Shakespeare off.
Yeah.
I don't know. Their director wrote a play about the Hawk tragedy, the mining tragedy that happened where a lot of people died. So it's going to be a drama.
Okay.
Okay. I was
Wow.
like, Ethan Hawke? All right.
Okay. All right. Robin
Thanks,
Tiger.
Rob.
Robin Tigerton says, "Good morning, Melissa. Happy birthday. I hope you have a wonderful day."
Oh, that's kind of you.
On this day in 1963, the Drifters were in the recording studio. This is what came out the other side.
They say the neon lights are bright on Broadway.
On this day in 1901, England's Queen Victoria died after a then record-breaking reign of 63 years, 7 months. A record that would be broken by her great-granddaughter Elizabeth, who reigned for 70 years and 7 months. But I mean, they've got job security, So
Yeah.
I mean, they're unless of course you get you lose your head, like in yesterday's history lesson. But other than that, you're fine. The world's first jumbo jet, the Boeing 747, entered commercial service for Pan Am, flying from New York's JFK to London. The Columbia Phonograph Record Company was formed on this day in 1889. The record label would morph into radio and then TV as the Columbia Broadcast System, better known as CBS today. But it all got started in 1889. Singer Steve Perry, formerly of Journey, is 76 years old today.
Stop before you start.
Just the softest rock available.
Hey, I like Steve Perry.
That's where you and I differ. But
Soft rock has its place.
I'm not even criticizing. You know, when you need a pillow of rock to lay your head down, I mean, Steve Perry.
Steve
Or
Perry.
you need to feel feels.
Yes.
This is what you need.
He brings the goods. Chef Guy Fieri is 57 today. Actress Diane Lane hits the big 6-0 today. And basketball player Caitlin Clark is 23. Did you see she was in the luxury box with Taylor Swift at the Kansas City game? Everybody was all to Twitter about that. Caitlin Clark and Taylor Swift are besties.
You think I watch sports?
No, I don't think you do.
Pat, she's going to a theater competition this week. Do you
Yes.
think she knows anything about
It really
I
is.
know those names. I know who
Yes.
those people are.
Mining disaster theater off is kind of the polar opposite of Taylor Swift over here.
A little bit.
Let's see. The late Michael Hutchins of NXS was born this day in 1960.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we got Greg back now. There we go. Of course,
It's so much fun to go to club with Greg.
Oh no, I wouldn't. I'd be in the corner just tapping my foot going.
yeah, he only comes to life here in the studio, in the control room. Yep. Let's see. This is the anniversary of the Roe v. Wade Supreme Court decision, which was repealed in 2022 by the Dobbs decision. And the number one song this day in 1977 was by Stevie Wonder. No, this is not Will Smith. Stop waiting for that song from Wild Wild West. This is the original one, kids.
You see that article about him that says he still like resents Chris Rock's sense of humor? I'm like, dude,
Get over it.
you got to get over this.
Yeah.
Just
There was a Super Bowl played this day in 1984, and that's back when Super Bowl commercials were still like really new and novel and borderline legendary.
Yeah.
And the first real legendary Super Bowl ad was this day in 1984. That, of course, was the one from Apple Macintosh, which was the first consumer computer to popularize a mouse and a graphical user interface. And remember the whole the woman. It was 1984, the novel, and George Orwell and all that. Look it up if you're not familiar with the original 1984 Apple Macintosh Super Bowl commercial. And then we talked earlier about Marcia Griffith's song Electric Boogie was a hit in 1982, but it became a hit again in 1990 when somebody started a line dance called the Electric Slide. On the National Day calendar today, this is National Blonde Brownie Day, but it's also Hot Sauce Day.
yeah.
Kind of, opposite ends of the food spectrum there. It's National Polka Dot Day. It's Grandpa Day, yay. And it's Library, not selfie, it's Library Shelfie Day. See? So,
Yay! I love that.
I didn't make it up. Melissa, you were up late last night. Got a quick little news bulletin from your part of the state.
Yes, the Common Council here in Wisconsin Rapids voted to table the discussion on the ordinance for the ATV UTVs ordinance that the people voted against and has been brought to the council again. So,
Okay,
discussions will continue.
We talked about that last week, about the tension between those who want the economic development and the recreation and those who don't want the noise or they have safety concerns. So,
And the mayor saying it's going to happen at some point.
I guess more meetings for you.
Yay!
You're lucky. Melissa, thanks for getting up and playing with us for a little while. Hope you have a wonderful day.
Always fun, guys.
All right. Still ahead, State Representative Francesca Hong is going to talk about her Healthy School Meals for All bill. That and much more ahead on Up North News Radio, live from Lake Wissota on the Civic Media Radio Network. Boom. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Now you can go take a nap.
No, now I gotta go finish this.
I
And
know.
be on the morning show. And. I get to go
There's
see a middle school or a elementary school opera today.
elementary school opera.
The excitement you have for the theater is unmatched
Wow.
by any person I know, and also
I know.
no, thank you.
No, it'll be on par with the opera they do in the Bugs Bunny cartoon, with my spirit and magic helmet. Magic
There's
helmet.
aliens in it, guys. It could be really cool.
Oh, there's aliens in this. Okay, do not let me forget to ask about this next week.
Boy, we want to report back for next week.
Yep. Thank you,
Have
Melissa.
a fun day, guys.
Yep,
See ya.
see ya. Bye.
All across Wisconsin from Civic Media, this is Up North News Radio. Now, live from our Lake Lesotho studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
Good morning. Welcome back to Up North News Radio, unabashedly Wisconsin, and brought to you by Courier Newsroom and carried by our friends here on the Civic Media Radio Network. 7:06 on this Wednesday morning, January 22nd. Nice to have you along. Coming up this hour, we've got meteorologist Brittany Merlot standing by. We're also going to check in with Up North News reporter Elizabeth Montemurro and talk a bit about what Governor Tony Evers had to say about Donald Trump's new administration and targeting undocumented immigrants. In our second half hour, we will talk to State Assembly Representative Francesca Hong about her bill, Healthy School Meals for All, and also some other matters that are still head scratchers in the legislature as far as why we're still debating them after all this time. Todd Alba will be along, so will Greg Bach. But first, again, Brittany Merlot's here, as is our usual good morning from Tigerton from Rob, who says it's cloudy and 4 degrees, the wind chill 11 below. And then he gets into the part that, I mean, we had our climate check last hour, but there's something even more alarming about the climate. You know, we got the cold air here, but as Rob notes, hard to believe New Orleans, Mobile, Alabama, Pensacola, Florida will have more snow, 8 inches in January than much of Wisconsin. They called the snowstorm on the Gulf Coast the blizzard on the beach. He also says he has a doctor's appointment in Shawano today and will get his groceries at Charlie's County Market on Main Street and have lunch at Luigi's in Shawano. Excellent food. I wish I could take all three of you along and Melissa for her birthday. Thank you, Rob, for that very much. We would love to do lunch one of these times. But Brittany, the big matter is, I mean, I believe that was the first ever blizzard warning for those parts of Texas and Louisiana. It was snowing like crazy on Bourbon Street in New Orleans.
Yep.
If anybody thinks there's something a little different about the climate, watch the video.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I think a statewide record has been broken. Milton, Florida got 8.8 inches of snowfall. And like Rob was mentioning, Pensacola nearing 8 inches as well as Mobile, Alabama, getting 7.5 inches. So there's been icy road conditions, snow all over the place. They're going to stay a little bit with the freezing mark today. Then they're going to climb into the 40s tomorrow. That, of course, is going to cause some melting and refreezing, and they just don't know how to handle this. They don't have the stuff to handle this. And it's crazy to think that they have more snow and they got a bigger dumping of snowfall than we have in the state of Wisconsin so far this season. So things are definitely weird.
It's so weird.
Backwards.
And again, that massive cold air has finally moved on from here where things are about 30 degrees warmer in many spots. Still a few single digits out there, but definitely better by comparison. Where are we going from here?
Exactly. I was so excited when I looked at the entire state. Every single one of us is above zero. Finally, no more negatives out in front of those temperatures.
Yay.
Yay. Something to celebrate. Throw your hands up. We are looking at highs today. Yep. Climbing to the upper teens to low 20s. The only bad part is the winds are still breezy. They're gusting up to 25 to 30 miles per hour. So it still feels sub-zero this morning when you factor in that wind chill, but not by much. And actually, as we go through the afternoon, we'll feel above zero. So light snow is ongoing, especially down south this morning. We're going to look at more possibilities of spotty snow showers this afternoon into central and northern parts of the state. And then, of course, some more snow moves through the south later on this evening, and some lake effect snow turns on Lake Superior. Nothing crazy, nothing like Florida, unfortunately. We're only looking at about a half an inch to an inch of snowfall. We've been pretty much in a snow drought compared to the rest of the nation.
Boy, we really have. And the other part that's been nice lately is, again, the day's getting a little bit longer. It's still by and large dark at supper time, but as you're kind of maybe making dinner or something, it's like you're still seeing light out there. We're getting there. There's literal light at the end of the winter tunnel.
Yay!
As it were. So
I have some. Here we go.
And there was much rejoicing.
Yay. We're not below zero anymore.
7.
7 degrees. Woo. Thank you, Brittany. Have a great day.
You too, thanks.
All right, let's bring in Up North News reporter Elizabeth Montmorrow now to talk a bit. Governor Evers is going to be delivering his State of the State address tonight. Coverage begins at 6:50 here across the Civic Media Radio Network. Join me along with Todd Alba and Dan Schaefer, Civic Media political editor from the recombobulation area, as we listen to what the governor has to say in terms of what he believes the state of the state is and what his priorities are for the next 4 years or for the next year. Whether the legislature goes along is another matter, but we'll see about that. Elizabeth will help cover that, of course, for us. Elizabeth, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Actually, just enjoying the late dusting of snow that just started as Brittany was giving that update.
See, she doesn't just do a forecast; she does a nowcast. So we got it. We're right on top of it. So we'll be covering what the governor has to say later tonight, but we're going to talk here about what you got from the governor in terms of discussing President Trump's inauguration and return to power, and the impact that it will have on Wisconsin in ways big and small. Tell us more about some of the things the governor talked about.
Yeah, so when we were just kicking off the new year, the governor held a press conference in Madison with a lot of other folks. And one of the big questions that he was asked, I believe by our friend Ruth Conniff, actually from the Wisconsin Examiner, was, what are you going to do if Trump does follow through on these threats of mass deportation? Given the fact that we have approximately 70,000 undocumented workers or residents in Wisconsin, most of them are employed. And 70% of those undocumented workers are contributing to the labor that's happening on our dairy farms. So here's what Governor Evers had to say.
The bottom line is, in Wisconsin, 70% of our farms are dealing with 70% of the people that may be part of the federal government's idea to move them elsewhere. Think about that. How in the hell would we continue to be the dairy state when there's nobody there to milk the cows and do the other important work?
I mean, there's really no better bottom line than that if you don't have somebody there to milk the cows. And you mentioned Ruth Conniff, whose book Milked has really brought to life what is happening on Wisconsin dairy farms with undocumented laborers, the farmers who hire them, the farmers who come to support them, some of the farmers who actually go to Mexico to visit some of the families because they can go back and forth across the border easily compared to their own employees. And Governor Evers again making note that mass deportation would be extremely hurtful to the dairy state. And again, we don't know exactly where Trump's going to go with these deportations. I would sense, I suppose, that he'd pick a lot of cities instead because those are blue areas, and that's where he wants to be seen as tough. But you can see from what the governor had to say, Ruth Conniff and others, there's some real concern about the impact this could have on the Wisconsin economy.
Exactly. I think when it comes to the latest executive orders that Trump signed, he did still sign them. So there is always that threat looming, I guess, and a little bit of worry for the workers that are, and sometimes wanting to be here legally. There just isn't currently a legal option for them, but they are still actively contributing to Wisconsin's economy. They're contributing through tax dollars. A recent report from the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy found that, in 2022, these undocumented immigrants were contributed over $200 million just in state and tax revenue alone. That's not counting federal taxes that they're also paying for programs like Social Security and Medicaid that they don't have access to.
I know I do this a lot on this program, but I'm going to pause and make you say it again because sometimes folks are only half listening. The economic impact of just undocumented immigrant workers here in Wisconsin, they pay how much in taxes estimated?
Estimated $200 million just in state and local taxes.
So imagine, folks, that going away. We have a budget surplus now. We don't always. But, sometimes we take for granted various sectors of the economy, and sometimes we get a reminder, like when we get the impact of the tourism industry or agriculture or manufacturing or what have you. But that particular work sector of the workforce alone contributes in a big way through revenue that ends up going to areas. And by the way, the federal taxes that they end up paying in many ways, they don't get the benefits. They can't get Social Security. They can't get, Medicare, even though their taxes go to help fund these things. And so it really comes back to something that I know we've talked about this before, Elizabeth, but the root cause of all of this and the really easy solution would just be a year-round agricultural visa.
That's right. The Farm Workforce Modernization Act, I believe, has been introduced in Congress the last 3 sessions, which would provide a year-round visa option for agricultural workers. They just can't seem to get it to the finish line.
No, and not just because of, last year's big thing about the bipartisan border security and immigration reform bill being, killed by Donald Trump. And amazingly, he didn't pay a political price for it. Not just that, but as you mentioned, just a standalone proposal to provide year-round agricultural visas, which would be so helpful in Derek Van Orden's district. It would be so helpful in Tom Tiffany's district, in Glenn Grothman's district, in Scott Fitzgerald's district, in Tony Weed's district, in Brian Stiles' district. And yet, do you happen to know how Wisconsin Republicans have voted on this stuff in the past?
From everything I could tell based on vote records, they all voted against it.
Voted no. No to a solution to the problem that would protect the dairy industry in Wisconsin. All right. Well, again, if somebody wants to correct that record, they can reach out to us. But it's pretty clear where there's been a lot of talk and very little action on this. Elizabeth Montemurro, Up North News reporter, thank you so much for giving us some background on there. And by the way, one little snowflake above you there, one little paper snowflake, is that you're just hanging on to the holiday season there a little bit longer?
That's right. Trying to bring the snow inside due to the lack of snow outside.
Whatever gets it done. All right, Elizabeth, thank you very much. Talk to you later.
Thanks.
All right. When we come back, we'll hear later from State Representative Francesca Hong about the Healthy School Meals for All bill and why it's still so tough to get expanded Medicaid health insurance coverage to new moms. This is Up North News Radio, live from Lake Wissota on the Civic Media Radio Network. There we go. All right. Let's see, what's today? Today's Wednesday, so we're going to talk at 9 o'clock, I believe.
Yes.
Okay. We'll do that, and then we'll kind of run through all the state of the state stuff.
Excellent.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right. See you then. Bye.
Again, the anniversary of the birth of the late Michael Hutchins of In Excess. Wisconsin Badger men's hockey can be heard on civic media station WFHR this Friday and Saturday as the Badgers take on Michigan. Coverage begins at 6:30 on Friday and 7 p.m. on Saturday. Then on Sunday, you can hear the Badger men's basketball team taking on Nebraska. Coverage begins Sunday morning at 11 on stations in Amory, Wisconsin Rapids, Racine, Kenosha, and Richland Center, and on the Civic Media app. Head over to civicmedia.us to learn more about the app, about stations around the state where you can hear not just people yodeling like me, but also all the various music stations that are found across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network. So go find yourself your new favorite music station as well over at civicmedia.us. You, of course, can also sign up on UpNorthNewsWI.com and get our daily newsletter there. Subscribe by hitting subscribe at the banner at the top of our homepage. Christina Laurie puts that together every weekday morning for you, and you can get it in your inbox and get an update on Wisconsin stories, headlines, and more. Just in on the text line, a very simple message. It says, please get a presence on Blue Sky. And then the edge, Joe from Superior. Joe, thank you very much. Yes, I have said, again, from a personal standpoint, I have all but given up on Twitter, and I mean, it's getting worse over there. I'm keeping the account alive just so that nobody can, claim it and claim to be me, but I'm not really posting there anymore. Courier Newsroom and all the various newsrooms around the country, like Up North News, we're making our way toward Blue Sky. Right now, there's still posts going up on Twitter sporadically, but I will again say that I've been very happy with how Blue Sky is coming along, looking like what Twitter used to be, where you could get news and information. The algorithm wasn't feeding you, literal Nazis and porn and violent videos were starting to creep up into my feed as well that I certainly didn't ask for. So I'm more than ready to be done with Twitter. Tony writes on YouTube, Blue Sky's problem is that it isn't built into any posting platforms like Sprout. Okay, we're kind of getting in the weeds here, but yeah, there's Blue Sky, again, is a smaller company, still working on some of those other relationships and abilities, but I got to admit, it's I don't know if exciting is the right word, novel to watch kind of a startup build its way up because these other companies have become such behemoths. Twitter, way too big for its britches. Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook and Instagram and Threads, way too big for their britches. And I've said for years, when are some competitors going to come along? And now finally, here comes Blue Sky. Jake in Milwaukee texts, porn will never go away, but I'm on Blue Sky. Yeah, I didn't mean porn was going to go away. I just don't want it pushed down, the feed into all of us. So that's why, again, I appreciate the comment about getting on Blue Sky, and I know that Civic Media has been looking into that as well, so stay tuned for that and more. Let's see, a couple of quick sports updates that I wanted to share with you include, I mentioned the Badger men's basketball and hockey teams playing, but the Bucks are playing tonight at New Orleans, and CC Sabathia is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He was with the Brewers only for 3 months in the summer of 2008, but he helped the team get to the playoffs for the first time in 26 years. We talked all about him in our last hour and just the amazing stats that he compiled in his short time with Milwaukee. And if you ever want to listen back to previous hours of any of our shows, just head over to civicmedia.us to learn more. I mentioned in our last hour as well that in place of the inauguration on Monday, some folks decided to go in a different direction, and Congressman Mark Pocan was definitely one of those. In doing so, he held an event instead on Monday in line with the theme of service that accompanies Martin Luther King Day, which was also on this past Monday. And in our last hour, we started playing not sound from the congressman, because we heard from him yesterday, but some of the groups of people who could be harmed or marginalized or targeted in a second Trump administration. We heard from the Centro Hispano executive director. We heard from the leader of a nonprofit advocacy group for the LGBTQ community. And we even heard from the state president of the National Association of Letter Carriers about preserving mail service throughout Wisconsin, especially rural Wisconsin, and not letting it be harmed by moves to privatize the post office. There's one more clip I wanted to play because it's just a nice, plain English explanation of what the Trump administration could do to Social Security and Medicare. Recall I said yesterday that in his inaugural address, Trump did not say anything about Medicare or Social Security. Didn't say anything about protecting it. Didn't say anything about targeting it either, but it's very clear that his policies would do that. And that was explained so well on Monday at this event by senior advocate Mary Metz, a UW-Madison professor emerita of education policy studies. So listen to how she explains what could happen to Medicare and Social Security thanks to what is written kind of in coded language in Project 2025.
Donald Trump has said that he will protect Social Security and Medicare, but he doesn't mean it. If he, in fact, is supporting the Department of Government Efficiency the way he says he is, they can't come anywhere near their goals without absolutely slashing both Medicare and Social Security. Furthermore, it seems as though the actual policies we're going to see are going to be following Project 2025. The people he's appointed, many of them are out of Project 2025, and particularly Russell Vought, who is head of OMB. And Project 2025 doesn't say it's going to cut Social Security, but the policies it promotes will cut it. They're going to change the formula for the benefits you get to begin with, and then the formula for the benefits that go up with inflation in ways that will make both lower. And they want to raise the retirement age, which will be particularly hard on people who do physical work for a living.
And we hear that a lot. We heard that from Eric Hovde throughout the campaign. I think we heard that from Tim Michaels. We heard from others about raising the retirement age. And gosh, we just have to. No, you don't have to. You only do that if you're looking to punish people who have more physical jobs and if you don't want to support people in their retirement years. And I think that Mary Metz did a great job of explaining how that can happen behind the scenes to Medicare and Social Security. State Representative Fran Hong is next. You're up north. All right, Franny, you there?
Good morning.
Hey, hi, how are you?
Oh, it's good to see you.
You as well. Hope you had a good holiday season and everything before life got crazy again.
I did. It was pretty quiet and I didn't have to travel, so had
Perfect.
plenty of time to reflect on the state of the world.
Hopefully not too much time. I hope you found some diversions.
No, always good to spend time with family. How are you doing?
Doing great. Doing great. Thank you for asking. Here's what I've got on the checklist here. So tell me if I'm missing anything.
Okay.
We'll hit healthy school meals for all. While we're on the topic of education and previewing state of the state, I'm going to mention that Arizona's governor in her state of the state yesterday really targeted the explosion in vouchers, and that you got to rein that in. Anything else that you want to talk about from the Assembly Education Committee or a state of the state preview? But I don't want to forget as well to get your reaction to Voss's comment that he is again going to stand in the way of Medicaid expansion for new moms. and you can't swear. You can't swear when you say it.
Right. Okay. No swearing. Anytime we can hit back on Republicans showing us who they are, I'm here for it. So.
Yep. And we probably won't have time to get into the what Josh called with the birthright citizenship lawsuit and mass deportation. But if time does allow, I could go there as well. Anything I'm missing?
No. I mean, they're going to bring back the culture wars and target our vulnerable kids, but Republicans don't center our kids, so it's not a surprise.
Yep. We got that under the Assembly Education Committee here. All right. I'll come get you in 60 seconds when we get going here.
Cool. Thanks,
All right.
Pat.
Yep.
Don't know much about history. Don't know much biology. Don't know much about a science book. Don't know much about the French I took. But I do know.
This is the anniversary of the birth of the late Sam Cooke, singing "What a Wonderful World, What It Could Be." And that will kick off this week's homeroom segment, where we talk about public education, the great things about it and the threats to it as well. And so we are visiting today with State Assembly Representative Francesca Hong, who is on the Assembly Education Committee. Fran, good morning. Thank you so much for being here today.
Good morning, Pat. So happy to be here.
I did not check my roster carefully, so I'm asking out of complete ignorance. Are you the ranking Democrat on education this year?
I am the ranking Dem this year.
All right. So that's so for all things Assembly Education. This is our point person who's helping to defend our schools and also put things in to our education system that should be there, like adequate funding, or in this case, healthy school meals for all. And I will say again, and I will say it all the time, this shouldn't be a thing. We shouldn't be having this debate about kids, and not being able to afford being able to have lunch at school. And yet this is where we are. We've talked about this. I think this might be the fourth year the bill's been put up, but give folks a little background on the bill, and then we'll get into how we can get this thing to make some progress.
Thanks so much, Pat. This is one of my favorite bills to introduce and one of my favorite days of the year when we can gather at the Capitol and talk about feeding our kids. This is our third introduction of the Healthy School Meals for All legislation. And it's simple. It's a bill that reimburses schools for feeding kids. It doesn't matter what type of school you go to. It can be a school for the blind, our public schools. And what it ensures is that every kid has access to a healthy, free breakfast and lunch.
That's it. Seriously, that's it. We don't charge kids for riding on the school bus. There's no fare box on the school bus. Why would we have one at the cafeteria? Look, we've heard either for fiscal reasons or my favorite is when opponents of the bill say, well, we're subsidizing lunch for wealthier families that can afford it. That's a weird time to suddenly be against, subsidies for wealthier families, given how much we send away to, school vouchers, for example. It's a very novel argument. So let's not even debate it. Let me ask instead, and, be as candid as you want to. Do you feel like the bill has been making any progress year by year that this could finally move, or does there seem to be a Republican brick wall to such a basic idea?
We have never had a Republican sign on to our Healthy School Meals for All bill. And we have never gotten a public hearing for this bill. And it's really unfortunate that we are debating hunger and feeding our kids. We should be banning hunger and not banning books. And I do hope that with more Democrats in the state assembly, increasing our numbers and knowing that Republicans have to go back to their communities saying they did something good, that this is what we can agree upon, feeding all of our kids a healthy school meal.
Exactly. I can't imagine a Republican in a swing district being asked point blank, why you don't support this, why you wouldn't even give the bill a public hearing. I mentioned voucher schools a minute ago, and with Governor Evers giving his State of the State address tonight, I note here that Arizona's Governor, Democrat Katie Hobbs, gave her State of the State yesterday and really targeted the explosion of state funds going to voucher schools. We had my colleague Cam Stevenson from the Copper Courier on last week to talk about that as well. This continues to be a very real fiscal concern, never mind the threat to public education, but it's a real fiscal concern that voucher schools could truly blow up the state budget in the not too distant future.
I mean, regardless of your zip code, everyone loves their public schools, and it's a place of community. It's a place of bringing people together, and it's a place where all kids, no matter their background, ability, race, again, or neighborhood, should be able to thrive. And so for our state to be funding two school systems and moving towards privatization of education, which is ultimately what the right is aiming to do, it's a disgrace. And if you look across the country, regardless of political affiliation, folks are fighting for their public schools. Texas to Colorado, Arizona, Indiana. If you look at places who have universal voucher programs, their states are headed towards massive deficits. And it's because funding private schools with public dollars is not feasible. And ultimately, this is about our kids having access to the best education and us as taxpayers having politicians who follow the Constitution. It is every kid's constitutional right to have access to a good public school. And so when we undermine our public schools, when we give public dollars to private entities, we risk harming our kids. And ultimately, this is about our kids.
We are talking to State Representative Francesca Hong from the State Assembly Education Committee. On the Education Committee, it is, I think, a concern of a lot of us that there will be not so much a focus on educational issues as on culture war issues, things that actually target our children by folks who might feel emboldened by remarks made in the new president's inaugural address. Or are those concerns overblown?
No, they are not. And let me be crystal clear. For our vulnerable students, our students who are queer, our kids of color, all students who don't have access to a high quality public education, Democrats are here to fight for each and every one of you. We should not be using kids as political footballs. They should never be a political target. And for Republicans to very intentionally go after queer or trans kids, it's incredibly disheartening and it's wrong. And it's cowardly, to be honest, because instead of debating the issues, we are distracting the public by weaponizing kids, trans kids who just want to be kids, who just want to be able to navigate this incredibly difficult world for them right now with ease. And every kid should be able to be their most authentic selves and to thrive. And it's an absolute disgrace that Republicans insist on putting our kids in danger as opposed to working on policies that will help cut costs for families, like healthy school meals for all.
Not to mention the kids who, frankly, are still wrestling with sexual identity and gender identity. It is a mental health issue that these are kids who need support, they need resources, they need guidance, rather than being shunned, banned, shamed, marginalized, whatever the case may be. And we really appreciate having you on the Assembly Education Committee to help stick up for that very vulnerable population. I guess I could mention in passing that there is still the unfunded literacy mandate. That's more of a joint finance committee thing where they're sitting on money that has been approved for literacy programs, but they continue sitting on it, wanting to micromanage, the way that school districts spend the money. This is from the last budget. We're dealing with the new budget, and yet I sense, Representative Hong, that this standoff may go on for a bit yet.
It's getting tied up in the courts, which is not surprising that when Republicans don't get their way, they try to litigate their way out of it and use taxpayer dollars to fund their legal representation. This bill was already controversial, and I think it's incredibly unfortunate that when our educators and our administrators are now forced to grapple with implementing these new standards, that we are here still debating whether or not to fund it and give folks the resources to be able to implement this new literacy bill and be able to help and support our kids. And so once again, Republicans are weaponizing and withholding good things from our communities. And I really do hope that we can move past and that the committee releases these funds so that our educators and our administrators are able to follow the law.
Again, it's in the category of this shouldn't be a thing. This money was approved. It should be released. Here's another in that category, and stepping away from education for a moment, under the category of this shouldn't be a thing, that when it comes to expanding Medicaid coverage for new moms, that the federal government does have financial incentives to extend that coverage from, I think it's 60 days right now, to 12 months postpartum, because it's such a health hazardous time for women. And I think 48 states have done this, except Wisconsin and Arkansas. And yet, Fran, this is one of the most bipartisan ideas that's out there. One man stood in the way last session, and that same man is proudly saying he's going to stand in the way this session. Can you kind of fill in the background on expanding Medicaid coverage for new moms?
Robin Vos is always more interested in protecting his power than doing good for the people of Wisconsin. And for Robin Vos to be the lone obstacle on the most bipartisan bill and helping our new mothers ensure that they have the rest and the autonomy to be able to take care of themselves and their babies, and to get in the way of that, when we know that the majority of Wisconsinites want this, the majority of legislators want this, and yet Robin Vos is choosing to exert his power and try to leverage and again weaponize new moms and withhold funding and withhold the ability for us to pass this bill. And it's unfortunate, but again, not surprising because this is who Vos is.
He wants us to basically fall into a rhetorical trap here where he lists all Medicaid as welfare. And does not want any of it. He thinks it's government spending on welfare, and he lumps that into that category. And he wants to have a debate on Medicaid as welfare. I'm pretty sure that there are plenty of Republicans on the other side of the aisle from you there in the Assembly who don't want to have that discussion, to bring it right down to the level of individual health for the women in their district, the women in their families.
Our families are struggling all across Wisconsin, and everyone just wants to be able to take care of themselves and their loved ones and ensure that they have access to economic security. And Robin Voss, once again, is more concerned about welfare for the rich and the powerful few, as opposed to making sure that our families have, again, an ability to take care of themselves. And for new mothers who already have gone through the traumatic experience of birth, not to have access to care, it's an absolute abomination. And once again, Republicans would rather prioritize making sure that the rich get tax cuts. They would prioritize making sure that wealthier families or families who already have access to great public schools have public dollars to send their kids to private schools. Again, welfare for the rich is not a new thing for Republicans, and they would rather tell you that folks who are struggling because of our inequitable wealth systems and the fact that wealth disparities have been growing for the last 20 years in this country, this is who they are. They would rather protect the wealthy and privileged few and themselves than actually do good for the families in Wisconsin.
And let me ask about the Attorney General, Josh Kaul, and Governor Evers joining a lawsuit that says that what President Trump wants to do with birthright citizenship, trying to strike it down, is an unconstitutional power grab. But between attacking birthright citizenship and threatening mass deportations, what is the impact of that on Wisconsin families, the Wisconsin economy, and your own concerns about these kinds of policies?
Communities should not have to live in fear. I mean, when you have folks who are already struggling to take care of themselves and their families, and then you add this other layer of the fact that you may be taken away from your family, it's unconscionable. And I think that Republicans who would rather, force families to think about potentially being ripped apart as opposed to being able to thrive in their communities. We have immigrant families and immigrants who contribute greatly to every sector of this country, whether it's dairy farmers, whether it's folks who are in food packaging, the people who are washing our dishes in our restaurants. The dishwasher, by the way, is the most important person in a restaurant. It's incredibly disheartening and it's wrong. And so for Governor Evers and Attorney General Kaul to make sure that they state and are working to protect immigrants and folks who are undocumented in this country gives us a sense of assurance that we have people fighting for them. And I think that it's important that we recognize that immigrants and undocumented folks pay taxes. They contribute to, again, every sector of this economy. And we are going to see costs rising. We are going to see quality of life become more detrimental for all families when we attack our undocumented and immigrant communities.
Representative Francesca Hong from Madison. Fran, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it, and we'll see you tonight for the State of the State.
Always happy to be here. Thanks, Pat.
Thank you. Todd Alba is coming up next. You're Up North.
Don't know much about the French I took, but I do know that I love you.
There we go. We're in break. Thank you, Fran.
Thanks, all. Have a great rest of your day.
You
Always
too.
good to be here.
Yep, appreciate
Bye,
you. See you later.
Bye, y'all.
Hello and goodbye.
Mr. Alba.
Well, buenos dias, gentlemen.
Pat, have I ever told you how great Todd Alba is? Todd Alba is so great. He's great.
For those watching the stream, this was my Friday afternoon for 6 hours.
I meant it every time I said it, Todd. Every time I said it, Todd, I meant it. And I wanted to make you blush and smile. And I know you can't take a compliment.
Ridiculous.
I did learn that on Friday as well, that Todd cannot take a compliment. Although I figured that out ahead of time. He's funny that way.
So if you want to introduce him as Todd Alba, the man who is great, feel free to. It's up to you.
Oh, no, it's not.
I feel like we got to queue up that man on the street thing near the end of the movie Elf, where he's talking to the news lady. I think you're great. You're just so great. I mean, your eyes are just so pretty. The way you tell a story. I mean, you're just great.
Oh my God.
You're getting a lot of text messages today.
I know. I like it.
And 2 whole phone calls.
I know. I'm not seeing those. So if you want them popped up, send me a note.
Oh, you don't see them at all? Oh, shoot.
No,
okay.
we never fixed that. So
we'll do that tomorrow. I'll walk you through how to type it in and whatnot. And there was a guy who wanted to talk to you. All right, never mind. That's on me. We'll figure it out. We'll fix it tomorrow.
Okay, got it.
All right.
I've been thinking about the time you walked out on me.
One more for Steve Perry's birthday today. And also to annoy Greg, now that I know his thoughts on soft rock when Steve Perry is crooning to young lovers out there.
At my wedding, there was no Journey allowed to be played.
Oh, I didn't know you were going that far on Journey.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
And
I understand other people are, but it was my day.
All of it, not just the soft love ballads.
There was going to be no Journey. There was no Journey at that wedding.
All right. Well, then the only Journey we're going to have from this point on is over to Todd Alba's place, where he is joining us. And Greg, how would you like to introduce Todd this week?
I think, okay, so first of all, Todd Alba, a.k.a. the Todd Father, a.k.a. host of the Todd Alba Show, noon to 2, Monday through Friday on the Civic Media Radio Network. He's also great. He's a great man.
He is great.
Through and through with a big heart. And I don't mean medically. I mean
he might. That might explain something. Yeah. Tony and Ashlyn, by the way, types in Todd Father so often that he tells us now that Todd Father is in his autocorrect. So
nice.
if he's ever talking about that movie with the Corleones, he has to change the spelling of it. We gathered, as you all know, in Racine. All the talk show hosts and producers had a little get together, and we realized every time we said something wonderful about how wonderful Todd is, Todd gets.
He gets blushy. He smiles. He turns
the
his head
giggles.
away. He covers his face.
I'm just a dude from Southwest Wisconsin. That's all I am.
Who means a lot to a great deal of people, Todd.
Well, thank you.
There you go.
Has great ideas on how to make a talk show work, and that's why I appreciate it and have you all here. How are you otherwise?
I'm well. I'm sure you guys are of a certain age where you remember the old Johnny Carson show on NBC and the great bit Karnak the Magnificent, the wild and mysterious visitor from the East. And he would have and so Karnak would have envelopes, and they would contain answers, and they have been sealed in mayonnaise jars and under Funkenwagel's porch, and they've been there since noon. And then Karnak would put it up to his forehead, and he would know that, and he would say, "White Christmas." White Christmas.
White Christmas.
As we play the role of Ed McMahon over here.
That's why I said they had dog and heat romance your shin for the month of November.
And he blows into the envelope there.
And the answer is name Donald Trump's DEI policy.
Oh, okay.
Wait a second.
Wait,
where is it? There it is.
My favorite Karnak joke of all of them, and I feel like I did see all of them. Sis boom ba.
Yes.
Sis boom ba.
Name the sound a sheep makes before it explodes.
Yes.
Johnny, we miss you. So you can get much less comedy like this when Todd and I anchor Civic Media's coverage of the State of the State address tonight. Starting just 11 hours from now at 6:50, the speech at 7 o'clock, and then we and Dan Schaefer, Civic Media political editor from the recombobulation area, will talk all about it. Although, Todd, as I'm sure you heard in talking with Fran Hong just now, as is often going to be the case, the governor is going to give us something that is probably well in line with Wisconsin values, the majority of them. And then the legislature is going to turn on and go, we want to go in a different direction.
Yeah, I want to make this clear because I'm not going to say this tonight because we have to be like serious and upstanding. But once again, I will say that I did offer to free of charge to help the governor write his speeches, and they've turned me down. So
Oh, no.
because those are the kind of lines that people want. You understand? They want to be entertained. I will not be that entertaining tonight, but hopefully it will be meaty in terms of content. And yeah, I think what I'm looking for is are there is it simply going to be a litany of things that all of us know while good causes simply aren't politically practical, or are there going to be actually areas where the governor lays out and to your point, makes sense. Most Wisconsinites, if you look at the voting from November, while most counties went for Donald Trump at the top of the ticket, there were, correct me if I'm wrong, over 80 referenda on public schools in those same areas that those voters voted for. So clearly people, when it comes to their public school, are in favor of that. What's the governor going to say about that? Our 2-year campuses, as you know, something that's near and dear to my heart. I believe now we're up to 6 closures. The governor has said that he thinks that Jay Rothman is doing a great job, kind of the old George W. line of "You're doing a hell of a job, Brownie," down there in Katrina. Will the governor just throw money at it, or will he call for a Blue Ribbon Commission to actually do an audit, or the State Audit Commission to actually audit the EW system to find out what the real problems are before just throwing money at it? And then, of course, Medicare, is he going to call for Republicans to join him on protecting those folks? So I hope there are areas where it's not just a tantamount, hey, I'm running for a 3-term Tony.
Yes.
I hope there's actually things that matter.
Yeah, and you'll gauge that by how many times the left side of the chamber stands up to applaud and the right just sits there on their hands. But we'll cover it all, and we will get reaction tomorrow morning from State Senator Jeff Smith and Assembly Assistant Minority Leader Kaylin Haywood from Joe Zepecki and more. But you can hear Todd Alba coming up at noon today, and again at 6:50 tonight with me getting set for the State of the State address.
It's
Mr.
a double
Alba,
dose of Pat and Todd today.
You know what?
A triple dose.
That's right. I'll be there at noon. Todd, you were great. I mean,
You're great.
He was great. He did a wonderful job.
You guys are great. Come on now.
No, you're
that.
great.
Don't do that, Todd.
And
Just accept it.
meanwhile, the listeners are going, this is really grating on me. Let's stop this. Okay.
Right.
Think that we will. All right. Thank you. Greg Bach is back in 2 hours for Matt Nair on Air. Thanks to today's guests, State Representative Francesca Hong, Melissa Kay, Melissa Baldoff, and to all of you for being here as well. Up North News is the Wisconsin outlet for Courier, a pro-democracy news network. I'm Pat Kreitlow. Have a wonderful Wednesday. We'll see you back here up north Thursday morning, 6 a.m. Bow.